Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys my updated top 15 best EDC knives under $50. We live in a world where everything is getting substantially more expensive, and lucky for us, the ultra budget knife world is actually really awesome. I can't believe how many awesome knives there are. In fact, the truth is I could do a top 50 video on this subject. So if your favorite sub $50 knife is not on my list, rest assured it would probably make a top 50. There are so many out there. But the 15 that I have for you today are all available. They are all awesome. I will link all of them right down in the description. You can check them out if you want. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at the_metal_complex. Today's list is in no particular order. They're just numbered to help me keep track of where I am. So without further ado, let's start off with number 15, and that's going to be the Navs Lander in D2 designed by Ben Peterson. The reason the Navs Lander is such a good buy is because, number one, it starts off at $45 with D2 and micarta. You could just carry this knife just the way it is. It's awesome, great size, very compact, but the quick swap scale system that he has implemented here allows you to easily swap the scales out for very inexpensive and very, like, a vast sea of custom scales for this. If you've ever thought, like, it would be really cool to personalize, you know, a really nice EDC knife, but God, it's so expensive. This is legitimately the cheapest way to do it. The Navs Lander and the $20 scales that you can get, and there are so many of them out there, not just on Blade HQ, but you know, a number of different places. Really an awesome option. Like I said, you don't have to do the customization thing. The knife is really great all on its own. Great ergonomics, very compact, good cutting geometry, and great materials. Great pocket clip, right? It's ambidextrous. Just a really good buy for a number of different reasons. Moving on here to number 14, and that's going to be the Migron Moyarl with the liner lock, because that's the only way to get it under $50. You can get the crossbar lock version for $10 more, but the liner lock version is going to be a sub $50 knife at $49. This is amazing considering you get 14C28N, which many people consider to have the best balance of attributes in the budget territory. A lot of people think, you know, when people say 14C28N is the best steel in the budget territory, not in terms of edge retention, in terms of overall balance of attributes, right? But I tend to agree. I think 14C28N is probably your best bet in this territory. But you also get, if you want, a PVD coating. They have both gray and black. You can get it in plain blade if you want, and a titanium pocket clip. Couple that with the fact that the ergonomics are superb. Oh my gosh. Actually deploying this thing or manipulating it is made super easy with the shape of that opening hole. I just really love this knife. The Moyarl is such a fantastic option. This is kind of, you know, for a lot of people who don't want to get into the weeds of like the knife enthusiast hobby, this is like a one and done pocket knife. I mean, in fact, most of the knives on this list are, but I really, really like this one personally. Moving on here to number 13, another Migron. We have the M Valona, which is like the big one, but smaller. Believe it or not, it's a 3.5-inch version of the Valona, which honestly we needed for a long time because the Valona was super impressive. That was my introduction to Migron knives. I could not believe there was a company out there creating knives with this level of quality and adding a titanium pocket clip. And, you know, I think at the time they were doing, maybe it was D2 or some other weird steel. But eventually they did a 14C28N version. I just could not believe that they were offering that knife for under $50 at the time. I think the larger one now is slightly over 50. Still worth checking out. This one, I think a better option all the way around for EDC, just given that it's a more reasonable size. You still have a decent choil there. You've got nice ergonomics. You have the crown spine, gray PVD on this one, but you have a few different options and a titanium pocket clip. Coming in at, I believe, about $47. It really is amazing. If you've never handled a Migron knife, it's really amazing how high quality they are for the money. Absolutely wonderful. Let's move on here to number 12, one of my favorite budget button locks, and that's the Sencut Crowley in D2. Absolutely wonderful blade geometry. D2 steel, depending on your personal definition of budget, if it's heat treated properly, is probably going to win the award for edge retention consistently, especially under $50. Balance is a different thing, but D2 is gonna, at proper geometry and proper heat treatment, D2 is gonna have decent edge retention, or one of the best levels of edge retention at this territory. But the Crowley itself, like the model, is just really, really good. The ergonomic lines, I think, are pretty good. Depending on the shape of your hand and where your fingers land, this bump right here will either help you lock in, or it might be in the wrong place. Got another option for you down the road here, but I just am a huge fan of it. I love that it's got thumb studs and a flipper. I think that's awesome. And I also love that the thumb studs are not in the cutting path. This is a really, really good option for people who like button lock knives, and it comes in at $47. Absolutely wonderful. If you want more of a straight handle and you like the idea of an inexpensive button lock, try number 11 here, the Sencut Saxi. Now this one's going to be 9CR18 MOV, which is the Chinese equivalent of 440B. It will not hold an edge as long as D2, but it is stainless, which is a property that some people absolutely need. This has a more open ergonomic profile, and it's just kind of like pick the one that you like, the Saxi or the Crowley. Like, they're both great. They're both made by Sencut. They're both going to have amazing, cutting geometry, anything like that. $45 for the Saxi. Absolutely worth a look. Moving on here to number 10. We have to include this. It's still, to this day, nothing can beat this OTF dollar for dollar. If you're like, I want one of those out the front automatic switchblades, what do I look at? The truth is that you are looking at an ocean of hot trash. And there's one gem in that ocean. One. And it's the Lightning OTF, not the Lightning Elite. The Lightning OTF. Believe it or not, they're not the same. It's not like one's better than the other. That's like a marketing thing. The Lightning OTF. That's the one you want to go for. Not made out of anything special. 440C and pretty low grade whatever aluminum. But my goodness, is that thing dependable. The fit and finish will not be special. The paint, whatever color you choose on the frame, will wear off. But you will be able to depend on this knife. The way that it operates, for some reason, these things just go for decades, and they're honestly really durable. I have given one of these to every member of my family, and they all still use them. Make sure that these are legal in your area. This is 100% going to be defined as a switchblade, regardless of what you hear from like your cousin Joe, who's like a knife expert, right? No, it's a switchblade. So be careful about where you buy it. Where you're having it shipped to. But these come in at $30. To this day, nothing has beat this in terms of an automatic OTF dollar for dollar. That's the way to go. Speaking of automatic knives, at number 9, I still haven't found a side-opening automatic knife that can beat the Boker Kalashnikov for the money. These, believe it or not, the base price of the D2 version of this is now like $30. Maybe 35, something like that. Depending on which model you get, it might be substantially more money. But these also, not the best fit and finish. You might have a little bit of blade play, but they do lock up in the sense that they don't disengage under normal use, and they will go for years and years and years. I have a buddy that I reference all the time who's had a Boker Kalashnikov, and it's his only knife for 15 years. That's how long he's had that thing. It's beat into the ground, but still operating. Definitely, if you're looking for a side-opening automatic knife, you're going to have a lot more choices with the Boker Kalashnikov. I do not love that specific, like, you have to put all 4 fingers right here on the frame. I don't like that ergonomic profile, and I don't like the bacon pocket clip, but I can't deny that the thing is just a really, really good value in terms of a side-opening automatic knife. So that's the one that I would recommend if you're looking for out the side, or an OTS, not often referred to that way, OTS automatic knife. Moving on here, number 8. We can't do this list without including this knife. If I don't include this knife, I'm going to have people screaming at me, and they're right? The rake, it's R-U-I-K-E. All these years later, nobody pronounces this word correctly. P801, one of the least expensive knives with reasonable quality, utilizing 14C28N. This is a $36 knife. pretty darn good, right? It's not going to be winning any awards in innovation, right? This has been a good knife for a long time. It's just kind of like set in stone as like a default, like, yeah, this is a good value knife. It was a good value knife 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's still a good value knife. It's a steel frame lock, pretty good looking knife, right? Great cutting geometry, and again, 14C28N. I very much doubt that this is heat treated optimally, but I do trust that it's okay for $36. It's a good knife. Yeah, I mean, at $36, I mean, that's crazy. It's great, right? That's the kind of thing you want to see. There's not really much to say about that knife. It's exactly what it looks like. Decent flipper, right? Good, lightweight, compact EDC design, made pretty well. That's what you want. Moving on here to number 7. If you are looking for the heavy-duty mega pounder Thunderlord Beast Hammer knife for sub $50, it's the Cold Steel SR1 Lite, hands down. There is nothing else in terms of like robustness and actual durability, right? If I was to put money on a pocket knife that was going to survive the longest under the most extreme, just like caveman beatings over a period of 10 years, the Cold Steel SR1 Lite at $40 with the Cold Steel Triad Lock, stupid, dummy thick injection mold plastic scales, and about 190 thousandths of HCR 13 MOV, which at this point doesn't even matter. That's essentially OS 8. Yeah, take this thing out and just beat it. Just beat on it. It won't die. This knife will live forever. It's crazy. It's like a tortoise and an immortal jellyfish mixed together in the form of a pocket knife. It is unbelievably durable. And I honestly can't believe that thing is only $40. I remember a couple of years ago it was $60. So they've dropped the price on it. If you're looking for something that's really, really heavy duty, right, and no nonsense, like, that's the way to go. Moving on here to number 6. These are still knives that I consider to be a good value. It's going to be the Ontario Rat Model 2 and Model 1. A lot of people are going to say the Rat 2 in D2 is still under 50. The Rat 1 in D2 is over 50, and that's true. You can still get the Rat 1 in OS 8 under 50, which is still a decent choice. These knives were like the king of the budget world, and it was no contest. There was nothing that was the equivalent years ago, right? We're talking like 8 to 10 years ago. They are no longer the absolute kings, but are they still a good choice? Absolutely. I still keep another Rat 1 in my truck. This one gets used all the time, and it was a size comparison knife on this channel forever. The Rat 2, the smaller guy, it's the same thing. It's just more compact. These are injectional plastic scales, a liner lock. They are dependable. They are functional. They utilize, I think, nylon washers, which is fine. I'm probably harder on these knives than the vast majority in my collection. I've never had a problem with the nylon. They're just good. The downfall is they have about 26 billion handle screws that you have to remove if you want to take it apart and clean it. But I would recommend the hot water, soap, and compressed air approach. Just make sure and clean it out and add some lubrication, some protective oil, things like that. But these are fantastic. Ambidextrous, and you have tip up, tip down, right or left hand carry options on both of these knives. They're just really good, right? Not the kings anymore, but a good choice. Whether you go with D2 or OS 8, I would recommend D2. A lot of people say that their OS 8 is heat treated better than their D2. I don't know. I think most people are going to beat these knives down so quickly that it's not even going to matter. So pick the one that you like the best and go with it. Moving on here to number 5, and that's going to be the Petrified Fish Beluga in K110, which is fancy D2. Seriously, it's Bowler's D2. That's it. It's just D2 made by Bowler for $49. This is one of the coolest looking pocket knives, under $50 in my opinion. But you get to balance the cool factor of the aesthetic with a super duper functional design. Really nice contoured scales. Really, really nice full flat ground blade. An absolute joy to manipulate. This is just an awesome knife. I got a ton of attention probably, 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, something like that. And it has just remained to be an excellent knife. They haven't taken the popularity of this knife and used it to jack the price up like crazy. Sure, there are more expensive versions of it now, but they have always given us an option that's under $50. I think right there at the edge. But that version is awesome. You can bump up, I think, $10 and get it in 14C28N, which in my opinion is also not a bad idea. But if you need it under $50, this is the one to go with. K110, just like D2, is a great steal. Moving on here to number 4. Also a knife that, if left off this list, would result in me being crucified by the knife community for good reason, because this is an excellent knife. That's the QSP Penguin at $32. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. It's one of the best dollar for dollar knives in the knife world. It has been for a long time. It is amazing to me that QSP is like, you know what? Yeah, inflation, that's okay. It's still $32. That's crazy. This is such a good knife. This is like it's one of those knives that's great to give as a gift for somebody who's like needs a good pocket knife but doesn't know anything about pocket knives. Like, this is the knife. I've maintained that for so long. It's such a good cutting geometry. D2 steel, beautiful action, confusing action for the price. Just a great standard profile, great pocket clip. I could go on and on. It's a really, really great knife. And you've got like a bajillion options for this thing. If you want to like spend a little more money and get something a little more fancy, you can. But the base version of it is really great. It's amazing. A lot of people say that the better option from QSP is going to be number 3, and that's the QSP Parrot, coming in, believe it or not, at $4 less. $4 less. If you don't like the aesthetic of the blade shape on the Penguin, or you just want something that's slightly smaller, why not pay less money for exactly what you want? It's $28. D2, and I think those are also micarta. I also think you have a few different options with that knife as well. It's fantastic. The overall execution, right? That's a big deal, is the fit and finish with a lot of this stuff is really, really great. Not so much with the automatics, but the fit and finish with this stuff is excellent. So it's not just the design and the profile and the materials, it's how it is executed. And these companies making this stuff are, you know, really putting in the effort, and the quality is absolutely there. So for $28, it's hard to beat. I believe that is the least expensive knife on this list. Moving on here to number 2. I'm so glad to bring this one back, because under $50, it is absolutely still a king. This was at one point the king of budget knives on this channel, and it's still up there. That's the CIVI Praxis. Not absolutely king, but definitely still worthy of a top 15 under 50 video. $42 for the Praxis 9CR18 MOV, which is the Chinese equivalent of 440B. Not going to win any awards in the edge retention department, but a lot of that is made up for by the Praxis's absolutely wonderful cutting geometry. That will definitely assist you in getting a lot more life out of that edge. Beautiful profile, beautiful choke up position. Like when I say beautiful profile, I mean it's nice to look at and it's really comfortable to hold. This is on the larger side. You can get the smaller one if you want to, but honestly, the bigger one is so compact, folded up, you're just getting a lot more blade, and I think it's a better value, honestly. There's a bunch of different options for this knife, because this has been kind of a flagship model for CIVI for so long. CIVI is kind of bumped up into the, you know, $60, $70, $80 territory. That's a lot more where they're comfortable. So in terms of a sub $50 knife from CIVI, I think the Praxis is definitely the winner here. Really great knife. And then finally, the last knife on the list, and I think probably the best value overall for my list, the CJRB Pyite Lite. Now, you can still get the standard Pyite in steel or G10. You can get it in this reverse tanto whatever blade, you know, if you want to. But the Pyite Lite in particular, I think, is a better knife for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is AR RPM 9, which we have come to find out here recently is a spray form of 9CR18 MOV, so like a spray form 440B, and that's fine. I think you get some added toughness benefits from the spray form. I forget what Laren said in his video, but it's fine for the money. You have a longer blade than the Pyite. You have a bigger, it's an overall larger design. I think actually you have a bigger choke up position, right? A little bit more cutting edge, a little bit more ergonomic room, and contoured scales, which adds to the comfort of this. These are injection mold plastic scales versus G10 or steel or whatever, but they are backed up by a full steel nested liner, so the knife still feels very, very durable and very sturdy. The best thing about this knife is that it can be had for $30 on Amazon. That is crazy. Button lock, beautiful action, incredibly easy to manipulate, and CJRB is smart enough to know that left-handed people exist, so they've given you an option over here. This is spectacular. I mean, dollar for dollar, $30 for this wonderful, wonderful slicey blade geometry with that nose pointed down. I love that. The shaping cuts, right? Button action, just beautiful. Button lock knives are not going to win any awards in terms of durability like the triad lock, but I think most people understand that a knife like this is simply going to be used for simple or extended cutting tasks, and that's what it's going to do. I absolutely love this knife. I cannot recommend it enough. For $30, it is wonderful. And CJRB, I hear, plans to add a lot more colors and a lot more options to this model in particular. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorites are down in the comments section. All of these knives are linked in the description so that you can check them out if you want to. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.